Welcome back to Stock Kong Invest and Analysis, where we look at the market and break down the opportunities.
Like and subscribe!
Rocket Lab stock, why it's dropping and what comes next. This article was written by Kumquat Research. Summary: Rocket Lab Corporation shares continue to be volatile. RKLB's Neutron suffered a setback that has likely pushed back the launch date. Long-term investors should capitalize on this fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Rocket Lab Corporation's RKLB wild roller coaster of a year has continued into 2026 as the stock is popping and dropping by 5% plus, seemingly every trading day. As volatility has picked up, investors have become increasingly wary, and momentum has become a major factor in price movement. With uncertainty abounding, I think now is an opportunity for those with a long-term focus to carve an entry point. In my last piece on RKLB back in October, I discussed the company's upcoming Neutron medium-lift launch vehicle and how it would transform the business for the better. I rated the stock a buy, and it has since appreciated by about 20%. That article can be read here. A 20% gain doesn't tell the whole story, though, because RKLB has been volatile. I recommended the stock at $60. A month later, it was worth $40, and then 2 months after that, it came within an inch of $100 per share. The 52-week high stands at $99.58. Now in a bit of a rut, RKLB has fallen back down into the $70 range, leaving investors wondering where the heck it's going to go next. Much of the upward momentum was generated by two main factors: rising expectations for Neutron and the impending SpaceX space IPO. As I've covered in many of my previous articles, Neutron is Rocket Lab's inflection point. The company makes a variety of different satellites and can launch small payloads into space with its small-lift Electron rocket. But Neutron offers a nearly 50x increase in payload size. This opens up all manner of market opportunities currently dominated by SpaceX. Which brings us to our second upward catalyst, the long-awaited IPO of Elon Musk's aerospace venture. One of the top issues the market must tackle when trying to value early-stage space companies like Intuitive Machines, LUNR, AST SpaceMobile, ASTS, and Rocket Lab is that they don't have the fundamentals or operating results that allow traditional valuation methods. And further than that, they all do something a bit different. But SpaceX's IPO puts a real dollar amount on at least some of the projections for these companies, but especially Rocket Lab, because it is aiming to fill the same niche as the former. SpaceX is further along, of course, but Rocket Lab is aiming to fill out a roster of different launch vehicles to carry its own and others' payloads into orbit. Despite some estimates last year in the $200 to $300 billion range for SpaceX valuation, the company was reportedly mulling a $1.5 trillion valuation last week, though more recent news just came down the wire as I was writing this piece, that SpaceX is acquiring xAI, Musk's AI endeavor, to create a combined entity worth $1.25 trillion, $1 trillion for SpaceX, and $250 billion for xAI. So with this, the bar has been set at $1 trillion for the top echelon of aerospace stocks. RKLB is trading at around $40 billion as of Monday's close, which leaves it in a distant second, though investors are optimistic it could close the gap. It is that optimism, in my opinion, that has helped lift RKLB in the last month. However, a couple of weeks ago, Rocket Lab announced some disappointing news that has dampened sentiment. Neutron, the Golden Goose, had suffered a setback in testing that resulted in a ruptured Stage 1 fuel tank during a hydrostatic pressure test. The company did not release an official update to the Neutron launch schedule, but promised further information during its February earnings report. This is not the news shareholders were hoping to hear, and for a stock that ebbs and flows substantially with market sentiment, it certainly hurts the company's short-term narrative. That said, for anyone that has followed the development of new launch vehicles in the past, this is hardly a surprising outcome. Rocket science has come a long way, but it remains unimaginably difficult, and failures happen at all stages of the development process. Rocket Lab has taken this a step further, and is innovating fast with aggressive timelines and expectations of failure baked in. Here's an older graphic from one of the company's earnings reports. The timeline on Neutron is now being stretched a bit compared to this image, but it is still coming in way ahead of most other launch vehicles. only being challenged by the Falcon 9, which is probably the most successful launch vehicle in history. And even then, the Falcon 9 took 2 years and 5 months from its first live-fire engine test to its first flight. If you compare that to Neutron's current timeline, the first live-fire Archimedes engine test was in August 2024, which means Neutron would still have until January 2027 to match pace. The problem now is that Rocket Lab needs to actually finish building another Stage 1 before it can continue testing, which will elongate the launch schedule, incur additional costs and cash burn, and generally make investors antsy about the company's ability to execute. This could lead to tough sledding in the meantime, as momentum investors filter out and the market waits for additional news. But I think the future looks bright, and long-term investors should begin hunting for an entry point. Rocket Lab's launch segment is set to grow significantly once Neutron begins launching larger payloads, and the Space Systems division continues to win contracts and deliver. As we can see from the charts, revenue continues to accelerate as the backlog grows, and gross margin improves as expenses slow, and the economies of scale from investments in manufacturing infrastructure bear fruit. Once Neutron is off the pad, the company will be one large step closer to becoming a fully integrated end-to-end space services company, which has been CEO Peter Beck's vision from the very beginning. While the waters might get choppy in the near term, as momentum dissipates and market volatility throws high beta stocks like RKLB around, I think long-term investors should view current prices as a solid entry point. Therefore, I am reiterating a buy on RKLB. This article was written by Kumquat Research. Palantir?
Hey viewers, like and subscribe to our channel. We'll keep bringing you more insightful stock analysis. It's going to be wild.